Welcome. In this video, we will be diving into ARIN's Policy Development Process, or PDP, which is the process by which policies for the management of Internet number resources in the ARIN region are developed by the community. The result of the policy development process is the Number Resource Policy Manual, sometimes referred to as the NRPM, which establishes the framework for how ARIN allocates Internet number resources such as IPv4 and IPv6 addresses, as well as autonomous system numbers. This policy manual also documents guidance for processing resource requests and transfers and maintaining data and directory services. It is important to remember that ARIN policies do not dictate ARIN's general business practices, set fees, specify implementation methods for staff, or dictate the policy development process itself. Policies are developed by the community in an open, transparent, and inclusive manner. Community participation is not only encouraged, it's essential. ARIN policies must allow for fair and impartial Internet number resource administration, be technically sound, and have community support. The policy development process acts as a life cycle, moving through four main phases. 1. Identify policy issues. 2. Draft and submit proposals. 3. Discuss and refine text. And 4. Approval and implementation. The process begins with an idea, formerly known as a policy proposal. Any member of the Internet community can submit a proposal except for members of the ARIN Board of Trustees or ARIN staff. You may submit your proposal at any time by completing the policy proposal template and emailing it to policy@arin.net. Once submitted, ARIN notifies the Advisory Council, or AC. The AC chair designates one or more members to act as policy shepherds to guide the proposal, which includes working with the author to fine-tune any wording as well as evaluating if the proposal meets key criteria to advance to a draft policy. The shepherd must confirm the proposal contains a clear problem statement, contains proposed changes to the policy manual, falls within the scope of ARIN policy. This means it addresses policy or guidelines for managing Internet number resources in the ARIN region and does not dictate ARIN's general business practices, set fees, specify implementation methods for staff, or dictate the policy development process itself. If the AC finds the criteria are met, the proposal is advanced to draft policy. If the criteria are not met, the AC may formally remand it to the author for revisions or reject it as out of scope. If the proposal is editorial in nature, the AC may advance it as an editorial update. A draft policy is a work in progress. The AC encourages discussion and solicits feedback from the Internet community on the ARIN Public Policy Mailing List, known as the PPML. The AC may also present the draft policy at a public policy and members meeting, which is a biannual open public discussion that allows for interaction and polling of participants. The AC may submit the draft policy for review by ARIN staff and legal counsel at any point, but this review must be completed before advancing to the next stage of the process. Based on community feedback and staff review, the AC may revise the draft policy throughout the process. As part of this stage, the Advisory Council assesses each draft policy against ARIN's policy principles. The results of that assessment, along with any actions taken, are documented and published to the public policy mailing list. If a significant portion of the Internet community raises specific concerns, those concerns must be clearly noted and addressed as part of the assessment. If the draft policy is unable or unlikely to meet the policy principles, that is, enabling fair and impartial administration, being technically sound, and having community support, the AC may abandon it. Otherwise, once the criteria are met, the AC takes the crucial step of advancing the policy to a recommended draft policy, or RDP. The recommended draft policy must be presented to the Internet community, usually at a public policy and members meeting, for feedback and a poll of support. The AC will review the feedback, and if the policy meets the necessary policy principles and shows significant community support, the AC advances it to last call. Note that significant support does not mean unanimous, but the policy must reach a consensus, having substantially more support than opposition among the community members active in the discussion. Last call is a final notification period where the recommended draft policy is posted to the mailing list for a minimum of 14 days. This is the last opportunity for community feedback before the policy is potentially adopted. Following this period, the AC reviews the final feedback. To advance the policy to the Board of Trustees for adoption, the AC must affirm, by a two-thirds roll call vote of the full Advisory Council, that the policy meets all requirements and that no undiscussed substantial issues have been raised during this period. The final stage is the Board of Trustees review. The Board of Trustees is responsible for the overall governance of ARIN and will evaluate the policy's development history to confirm its compliance with the goals and principles of the policy development process. The board has three options. Adopt. The policy is integrated into the policy manual and implemented by ARIN staff. Reject. The policy reverts to draft policy status and includes a written explanation. Remand. Policy remains in recommended status and returns to the AC for clarification or revision. Once the board adopts the policy, ARIN staff is responsible for implementing the changes, updating the policy manual, and monitoring any effects of the new policy. Staff will report any significant issues regarding implementation back to the community. In certain situations, special actions may be used to address policy needs outside the standard development cycle. These include editorial updates, policy suspensions, emergency policy actions, and petitions. An editorial update is a non-substantive change to the policy manual. This may involve improving grammar, providing clarity, or correcting textual errors. It does not change ARIN's practices or procedures. If the AC deems a proposal or draft policy as editorial, they will adopt it as an editorial update. ARIN staff will post the proposed change to the mailing list for 30 days for community comment and will also conduct a staff and legal review. After reviewing all community and staff comments, the AC may recommend the editorial update to the board for implementation. The board must ratify it for inclusion into the policy manual. Policy suspension is initiated by the Board of Trustees if an adopted policy is causing significant impediments to ARIN's management of resources or having a substantial adverse impact on the community. If the criteria are met, the board immediately suspends the policy and requests a recommendation for resolution from the AC. The AC will then develop a recommended draft policy to resolve the issue and publish it to the mailing list for at least 14 days of community feedback. After reviewing the feedback, the board may adopt and implement the new recommended draft policy immediately. An emergency policy action may be initiated by the Board of Trustees if urgently necessary pursuant to ARIN's mission. The board declares the emergency, publishes an emergency recommended draft policy on the mailing list, and invites the community to discuss it for 14 days. Following this period, the AC reviews the emergency policy and makes a recommendation to the board requiring a two-thirds vote. If adopted, the policy is immediately implemented by ARIN staff. If members of the Internet community feel the policy development process was not properly followed, they may appeal certain decisions made by the AC using the petition process. When a petition initiation form has been submitted and verified, ARIN will announce it on the mailing list and the petition window will be open for 7 calendar days. Petitions need the support of at least 15 different ARIN member organizations in order to succeed. The AC is made up of 15 elected members from the ARIN region, and its primary responsibility is to help implement the policy development process. They do this by facilitating communication, operating as a deliberate body to discuss changes to the policy manual, and making policy recommendations to the Board of Trustees. Key actions include shepherding policy proposals and working with proposal submitters, presenting policy drafts at public policy and members' meetings, discussing draft policies and proposals at monthly meetings, ensuring policy proposals meet the principles of being fair and impartial, technically sound, and community supported. ARIN staff serves in secretarial duties to the board in AC, facilitates the public policy and members' meetings, implements policies once adopted, and reports feedback on existing policies. The Board of Trustees, also composed of elected community members, is responsible for overall governance. They ratify policy changes, review recommended draft policies, and ensure the policy development process has been followed. Have an idea? Let's talk about how to successfully submit a proposal. A clear proposal starts by including all elements listed in the template, but there is more to it. When providing a problem statement, you should include a concise description of the issues that need to be addressed. For example, what is the problem with current number policy? Who has the problem? When and where is it a problem? Because the policy manual is for everyone in the ARIN region, you should avoid calling out specific people or organizations. It may be helpful to explain how the policy statement will address the problem. The next consideration is a clear, in-scope policy statement. This statement should be unambiguous, actionable text without the need for further research. If there are to be changes to existing text, we recommend you provide redline changes with your submission, and remember, as you craft the policy statement, make sure it aligns to your problem statement. The comments section is for any additional information the Advisory Council might find helpful while evaluating your proposal. Keep in mind this text will not appear in the Number Resource Policy Manual if adopted. Ready to get involved? Here are a few other ways you can get involved in developing Internet Number Resource Policy. Subscribe to the Public Policy Mailing List, PPML. Join in on the discussion of draft policies and recommended draft policies. Don't hesitate to share your support or concerns. Attend meetings. Provide in-person or remote feedback when draft policies and recommended draft policies are presented at our biannual public policy and members meetings. Run for the Advisory Council. Want to take a direct role in shepherding proposals? Consider running for election to the Advisory Council. Need more information? Check out our website. Let's take a quick tour of a few relevant locations. To view the policy development process text in the quick guides from ARIN.net, select Policy in Participation, then Policy Development Process. On the right side Related Links menu, you can find helpful links such as the flowchart, quick guides, and the proposal template. For an overview of the entire policy development process, refer to the Policy Development Flowchart. Looking for a quick reference to the policy process? Check out our quick guide. Need to look at the current policy manual text? Select Policy in Participation and then Number Resource Policy Manual. And finally, from the Policy and Participation menu, view the current draft and recommended draft policies, as well as all policy proposals, and what actions have been taken with those drafts and proposals. The policy development process relies heavily on your engagement. As members of the Internet community, your thoughts and actions matter. Remember, ARIN is literally powered by participation. We hope you'll engage in the policy development process and add your voice to the conversation. If you have any policy questions or are ready to submit your first proposal, please email policy@arin.net. Thanks for getting involved. Looking for additional videos? Visit our training library at arin.net/how-to videos to learn more.